Broadcast is back, baby.
I was very excited about talk about Puga because as an artist, I researched a little bit about Puga, and apparently you guys, Puga, you guys are an outsourcing art company for games.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it's really good. It's a really cool place to work at, and it's really cool to work on many different games from different styles, different platforms, and just see the art direction then, and try to fit that or maybe even improve upon that. It's really cool.
So, as a producer in an outsourcing art company, what's your day-to-day life like?
It's hectic. Like a lot of stuff happens.
All right.
It's very strange because sometimes your days will be very calm to the point that since your job as a producer, you will often be putting out fires or avoiding a fire to start. Ideally, that's what you'll be doing. Uh, but some days will be just calm, like nothing will be happening, and you'll be like, something of wrong is happening. I can just feel it. It can't be calm. You just can't. Daily, what you will do is go into meetings, make sure everything's being worked on as we agreed, the progress the tasks are having right now, to make sure we deliver the assets within the time we agree with the client and with the quality as well.
All right.
So there's a lot of negotiating, a lot of just understanding how things are going, trying as well to, like I said, find issues before they become issues, which is very complicated sometimes. Sometimes the issue will come from the client, sometimes the issue will come from the team. There's a lot of stuff we have to pay attention all the time. I'm trying to think of an example we had recently. Yeah, one of them was, or our artist was doing a new character, and
Right.
he couldn't. We thought he could. We estimate tasks. We go like, okay, how much time does this task take usually?
Dude,
And
you're asking time estimates to an artist? You're serious?
not
That's
an
the
artist.
hardest thing to say.
We get usually an art director who has a lot of understanding to be like, okay, this task should take this time.
Okay.
Great. And then we start to go, and this artist takes like one extra day to do it for a task that was estimated to 1 hour and a half. We're like, yeah, that's a bit worrisome. And it's the smallest task. So I'm like, I need to prepare a plan because if we can't catch up to this lost time, quote unquote, we won't deliver on time for the client. That's not good.
So you had tight schedules. Very tight schedules.
Mostly, yeah.
Okay.
Mostly. We usually negotiate. It's not rare to negotiate, but we try not to do it because we agreed upon a time. Let's try to stick to it. I'm seeing right now the ones you're showing. Since we have a small delay for the one I'm looking at, you're looking at, I think it was Looney Tunes Mayhem, something like that.
I was looking at Looney Tunes Mayhem for a very specific reason, so I'm very impressed that you guys worked on it. First, because it's Looney Tunes, but secondly, because I also have a friend who worked at this game. It's Juliano. I worked with him at Ubisoft, and now I think he's working at Naughty Dog. He's an amazing technical artist, and he worked in this game. That's pretty cool. So you guys also helped developing the art for Looney Tunes World of Mayhem.
Yeah, it was a very important learning experience for the company as a whole. We had to improve a lot of our processes in order to ensure we got everything right, because that one is a very interesting case where you work with more than one client in a way. You're working with the developer, which I think was Aquiris, and you're also
Aquiris,
working,
yes.
yeah, and you're also working with Warner Bros. Because it's their intellectual property. So you have to make sure everything fits, everything's right for both Aquiris and Warner. And this whole communication is kind of complicated to go into, but you have to always be talking with everyone, making sure everything's right. Like I said, you have a time to do everything. You have a very small window for mistakes. That's what I can go into without going into more detail.
I understand, but since you work in producing, as a producer, right? Why don't you just offer the artist in your company more time? Why don't you just say to the client, we actually would need 2 weeks instead of 1 to develop this piece of art? Why you guys try to be so rushy?
It's not rushy most of the time. It's
Okay.
just it's like there's a lot of factors to waiting here. There is cost mainly.
Oh, yeah,
uh,
makes sense. Makes sense.
because you have the artist salaries and you also have the company who's producing. They need the assets, and each
Mm,
day that they don't have an asset is a cost for them.
makes
It's not
sense.
ideal,
Okay.
and it's also a cost for you. This is something that is very complicated, I guess. Like when you illustrate it, it's easier, but we work with two different estimates, two different metrics that matter a lot. One of them is a measure of the cost for time, like for the delivery, and a measure of cost for the company.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, we call them EDP and EDC, which is one for prazo, like time, and the other one is for cost. Um, let's say I deliver everything, you will need an asset within 5 days. If perchance I deliver it in three, that's kind of good. Technically, I deliver it 2 days, 2 days earlier. That means I have a positive IDP.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have 2 days, I save. That's good. But let's say I burn through that. I have taken 3 more days. I have
Mm-hmm.
burned. I'm negative now, so that means technically I'm paying more right now, and it's not ideal for you because I'm not delivering the day we did. But you say, okay, but you're going to pass the time. You know that. So just put another artist to execute the task. Okay, I can do that, but that will increase my IDC because now I'm paying two artists for a task that was meant for one.
Okay.
So that's not ideal for us. We're now losing money.
So
Quote unquote,
basically,
because we have different margins, but that's the
mhm,
idea.
that's very interesting. So it comes down to money and reputation. Basically, you guys want to stick to your word. If you say you're gonna deliver in such date, you want to deliver in such date.
Yeah, it's you of course can negotiate this
Hmm.
given different factors. Let's say you realize the task required way more and the client didn't provide that. If you can negotiate it and be like, hey, client, to be clear, we're missing this. So we reevaluate the task and it's going to take longer. Like we can't do it. And usually, if everyone, when it comes to all these negotiations, everyone wants to come out, on top.
Of
But
course.
you have to be reasonable. So a lot of clients will be like, "Yeah, makes sense. My bad. We'll pay for 2 extra days. It's gonna be fine." Or sometimes we go, "Oh, yeah, makes sense. Sorry. Can you still deliver it on time?" And we have to say, "No." Like, okay, deliver what you can, and it's fine. That was our mistake.
It must be tough, right? When you should give this information, like, I'm sorry, it's not on time. Like, requires a lot of soft skills.
Yeah, you have to really have how can I say it? I can't remember the word in English, like
Say
embasamento.
embasamento. How would you say
Yeah, it's
embasamento?
hard.
You need to have a background information. Like, how
Yeah,
would you
something
just
like that.
something like that?
You
Yeah.
you need to be you need to have your ammunition for these negotiations because,
Okay.
like I said, nobody wants to come down, losing,
Hmm.
but someone needs to when it comes to these negotiations. And it's not so much a matter of I want the other person to lose. It's more of a matter of I want to find a solution that's reasonable for both sides.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's how you negotiate. You have to explain your side, you have to bring your points, and the other side will bring theirs, and you will find a middle ground that works for both, ideally. Some companies are, let's say, stronger, and they will usually use that to strong arm the other one, the weaker company. But it's not ideal because when you do that, the other company starts to have less of a reason to do a good job. They will do a good enough job, let's say.
Hmm.
Just fill the minimum specs, and we will, if you have to negotiate in the future, it's not ideal as well because you will always come hoping to just finish this as quickly as possible, be done with it,
Hmm.
which is not good for anyone because that means you will usually deliver assets who are artistic assets, that is, who have usually a lower quality, not lower as in bad, but you will do the minimum that it's in the on description. And if the guy goes, "Oh, it's not what I asked," the other one will like, "It's what is in the text. We did what's in the text. Let's be done with it."
Ah man, but if you work like that, they won't hire you again. They will just choose another outsourcing company, like art company.
I
But
know
some
it really varies, depending on
okay.
the size. But sometimes you will want that. You will
Hmm.
go, "I don't want to work with you again because you're a problem.
Yeah.
You are not a good negotiator, and you always want to, get on top of us, and that's bad for you as well, because put it in your own on the company that is being strong armed. The other one will likely do that. You will usually be losing money. So even if because you have to renegotiate, put more artists, make sure you get on that. it's not ideal for you either. Like, oh, they won't hire you again. Good. They're not paying us enough anyway, so bye.
Oh man.
It's like I said earlier, like it's positive for you to lose in this situation.
So for how long have you been working to Puga right now?
2 years.
2 years. Okay, and you're happy so far. Let's say.
I had ups and downs.
Like
Puga
every
had
job. Come
a
on.
lot- yeah. But I'm going to say this one is a bit different for many reasons. Puga went through a lot of changes because it grew a lot, which is good. But these changes also impacted me a lot. So I had a moment near the end of last year which I was just feeling very demotivated, you know. Like, what I'm doing here, do I even exist for this company? So, whatever. And I have a very earnest talk with my leader about that. I opened up how I felt. I explained my situation, and to his credit and the company's credit, he's like, "Yeah, we really failed with you. Sorry about that." And so they started to work on that, and I also made mistakes because of that. I also felt like if it doesn't matter what I do, I would try to do what I can, but when you don't feel motivated to do your job, you will not do. How can I say? I'm not saying you won't go beyond what you have to do, but you will be more likely to do mistakes because you just kind of want to be done with it, you know. And that's not ideal, especially in a position where you have to pay attention to so many things. And that's what happened. I made mistakes because of that as well. So this is a very strong contrast to what happened in Tenjin, right? Which I opened myself and it's like my boss wasn't really the most human in some situations. While here, my leadership was, and they started helping me, and so much so that I have been growing a lot from December to now. I've been studying a lot, I've been learning a lot of new processes, and my leadership has been really helping me, guiding me, and pointing out where I can learn all that. It's like a lot of stuff I just explained to you, I learned the last few months. I kind of knew it, but I couldn't properly explain it. Now I can. So that's the big difference. That's what changed.
And that's very interesting. So you're finding your way, basically. You're navigating. You're
Yeah.
getting there. Yeah. And for me, what's the most interesting of all of that's that you had a passion, which was games. You went to game design university, and even though you went to the game design, are you okay?
I was going to sneeze, but the sneeze didn't come out.
Bless you, I guess. So you had a passion, game design, and you went to game design university, and even though you finished game design university and you still didn't have an idea where would you fit into this industry, you persist, and you go from a job to another job, and you eventually find yourself as a producer in the game design in Puga, right? In an art outsourcing company, and that's very, very interesting. That's very how to put it, inspiring, because I'm sure, Ivan, there's a lot of people. I can tell you a lot of people who wants to work in the game industry, who love games. A lot of younger people who basically grew up playing Minecraft, like the younger folks, and they want to work in the game industry as well. The game industry is growing exponentially. Every year is growing so much. Every year there's more and more people who wants to work in the game industry, and not necessarily all of them know what they want to do in the game industry at all. And most of them, as you put before earlier, they think it's just fun. They're gonna join the industry and they're just gonna have fun playing games all the time. It's a job. It's a job like any other job. It requires effort. It requires discipline. It requires experience. But if you persist like you did, and you're trying to find what you like in the industry, you can end up achieving it, doing it, getting there, and that's very inspiring.
It's something that I think not a lot of people explain when you're young. You know, like there are a lot of jobs in the world, in any field, that you have no idea that exist until you start to look at it. So if you have a passion for something, you're like, I want to work with that. That's a good starting point. Start to learn more. Look how the whole process is made, and you may find something that you're like, okay, I can do this really well. I can see how I can fit there doing that. There are many more roles in the game industry that most people never heard of. For instance, one that a lot of young designers I know have never heard is the technical artist, which is a very important role, but a lot of people don't even know it exists.
Juliano, the friend of mine who works in the Looney Tunes game, he was a technical artist.
Yeah, and it's very important to make any game look nice. For those who don't know, technical artists is usually the one who handles particles and effects. And you may think, what is that? That is what you see in what you don't see actually in a lot of games. Like you will be seeing often, but it's not something you think. You will most likely think, oh, an artist just drew that, and it's not something simple like that. A technical artist will usually mix art and programming to make gorgeous effects, to make a game look nice. Like a fire effect, which has a few particles coming out of it, a few smoke effects or small fires. That was a technical artist. Or let's say your character has a very cool attack animation with this trail that comes after him. It was a technical artist who did that to make sure it has an impact, a film. So it's a very complex job, but it makes the game look so much nicer when you do that. If you play League of Legends, most likely any attack there was a technical artist who created that, the whole effects around it. That's just one example, but there are many other roles. You could have a producer, like I said. A producer is a very unsung hero on a lot of work, because the best example I heard is, if you don't have a producer on a project, you will say you need a producer. And when you have it, you will wonder, what is he doing there? Because if he's doing his job right, you won't feel he needs to be there. He's the one who will find issues on a project and try to solve them. He is the one who has this high-level view, because when you're doing art on a project, you're not looking at code more often than not. You're not looking at animation later. And your job will impact all of these. So it's the producer's role to realize, okay, what you're doing could have an impact there. Let me see how I can improve and make sure that it gets there fine. Or maybe something the programmer is doing is impacting the artist. Maybe there's something that's stopping the upload or the animation. It's the producer's role to go and understand with the programmer how that works and try to remove this blockade from the animator to make sure that he can do more in less time. So it's a very active role. Like since we work with clients in Puga, we're often negotiating because, like I said, I don't have a view of the programmer there. But our artist is going to go into their game. It's going to go to a programmer. I need to make sure that it fits their requirements, that I understand how they work, so our artist works. Sometimes it's the other way around. Something we do will have an impact there. Let me make sure that they understand that I can remove it here so it gets them easier. It's a very important role, and you will be working with many different fields, many different people with different opinions. So negotiation is the key skill you will need here. One of them, of course. There are many others, but this is a very important one always.
Yeah, man, that's so interesting. So would you say that the role of the producer is to make sure that everything runs smoothly? Basically, everything works well and everyone has what they need and everything is ready to be delivered on time, basically.
Yeah, because one phrase I use often to help artists understand this is, perfection is something to be aimed at, but not to be reached.
Don't just dare say that to an artist. They're going to work the whole weekend until it's perfect.
That's why I'm telling them, like, don't. And I tell that also to my girlfriend here, my girlfriend wife.
She's an artist?
She does art. She also programs. She does a lot of stuff. She's a teacher for kids, and she teaches them game design, computer science, and all that stuff. And she is very perfectionist. And I tell them, don't do that, because everything can be improved continuously, non-stop. But if you keep doing that, you won't deliver anything. It won't be done. No one will use that. So what's the purpose of just continuously improving this small thing that may not be that important?
Self-pleasure.
It's not often that. I think it's, some artists will be that, but for others it will be just this insecurity of people will not like it, which is what I find more often.
All right. Watch full episodes of the Brewcast on the main YouTube channel, youtube.com/@brewfrasca.